I'm in my closet because I have workers here today. It's a super late start on my vlog, but last night I watched Chelsea Handler's Netflix thing on white privilege, and I paused the show a few times to write some things down. The first thing was, why do white people ask black people to solve our problems around being white? Which I thought that was really interesting and kind of what's happening. And you can't solve a problem that you won't name. White privilege is real. And privilege is the flip side of oppression. If someone is down, someone needs to be up. The elevation of the white race was created the suppression of the blacks. This happened hundreds of years ago, and it's been going on for hundreds of years. It's difficult to undo it. It can be done, but it's difficult, and everyone needs to agree that it's real, that white privilege is real. Chelsea Handler interviewed some people, and I just couldn't believe the number of people who were like, they need to just get over it. They need to just get over it. It was really, wow. I mean, I know there's people like that, but I wonder how they felt being outed. And one of the things that was said was racism is not a feeling, it's an actual structure that is measurable. It's not just like I feel like there's racism. Like black people don't feel like there's racism. They know it's an actual structure and it's measurable. Hello.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to say hi, vlog.
So today's voting day in several states, one of them being Kentucky. So Kentucky condensed their polling places. There were over 3,000 places to vote. They reduced it to 200. In the city of Louisville, there's 767,000 voters, a single polling place. There's no reason to do this, to reduce the number of polling places, absolutely none, except to suppress the vote and keep black people from voting. That's it, period, end of report. That's voter suppression. So I'd like to know how 767,000 voters are going to all crowd into one polling place to vote. They're not. So it's a way to keep people from voting, period. And I think you guys want to get that fucking Mitch McConnell out of your state as your rep. I mean, I think you should want that. Hopefully that's what happens. So one of the articles that I read on The Atlantic was about how this whole culture of police brutality, came into being, and it was kind of like a deep dive on that. So there was this mentality of like us versus them. And it talks about some of the things that I've talked about where, these police go out in these communities, they see all of the worst of society, the worst criminals, the worst gangs, the worst drug dealers, the worst domestic violence. They're seeing it all. And after a while, they get like a fatigue over it and they stop seeing people as humans. They just see them as criminals. And then they behave that way, like everyone's a suspect, everyone's a criminal. They're not people. They're not human beings with families and brothers and sisters and children and wives or girlfriends. They're just criminals. And then there's tribalism around that because they go back to the police station at the end of their shift, let's say, and they're surrounded by people that the only people that can relate to what they have seen and what they feel and how they believe. And so this is their tribe. And the silence of a good cop is deafening. The silence is deafening. Like the good cops, because they're in the tribe, they don't want to go against them because part of them actually suffer from the same thing. My husband said the other day, which I thought was really interesting, like police should set up a thing where you can only be a cop for 15 years. After about 15 years, you're so jaded and so down on the communities that you police, because again, you're only seeing all the worst of humanity, that 15 years is your deal. You're 15 years and you're out. go do something else, because it's about that time that cops start. Well, you see a lot of the cops that have committed some of these atrocities, a lot of them are veteran cops. So the police unions also play a role in this. You know, many communities have wanted to have really structured police oversight with like community oversight so that they have to be accountable to someone. But the police unions limit this accountability. They fight tooth and nail to say, no, we don't want that. The police want to police themselves. And that just sets you up for trouble. There needs to be some oversight, and ideally it should come from the community, and ideally it should reflect the community. So that means it should be racially diverse and economically diverse. And that's one way to really start changing the tide a little bit of this tribalism, for lack of a better name, that's happening in these police communities. Okay, moving on from that. Another thing I read is that the coronavirus and the shelter in place and the quarantine has created serious libido issues. And I'm pretty sure I predicted that. I would usually end my Friday blogs by saying, you know, go make love to your person. Well, here's the thing. Here's why libidos are down. People are working from home. Maybe both spouses are working from home. You're getting on each other's nerves. You're homeschooling the kids. It's super stressful. One spouse is going to work and the other one can't go to work. They have to stay home because their work is maybe closed. So you're pissed about that, not feeling super amorous. Your kids that were grown and flown are now back in the nest. So the house is full. You don't have the privacy that you used to have. I don't have a solution per se, but I know that it's happening. And it's upsetting. You just have to make time, and you have to turn off all the stuff that you're irritated with, like, you know, the way they talk on their conference calls at home, or how they go to work and they come home and they're like, oh my God, it was such a busy day at work. And you're like, fuck you. I was home homeschooling our fucking kids and trying to come up with dinner ideas and da 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 da. You gotta flip that. You gotta be immune to that, because this is your person, and you gotta get your sex life back on solid ground. So maybe I should say that every day. Make love to your person. And it's important, and we don't want this slipping away. Although there's plenty of quarantine babies on the way, I can tell you that. The other thing that I read about that just was like, wow, seriously. So we have the pandemic, then we have the locusts, which are, you know, invading us. We have the killer bees. Now there's the Godzilla Sahara dust storm that's heading towards the U.S. It's the hugest Sahara dust storm ever. This dust storm happens every single year, but this year it's bigger than ever, and it's heading towards the U.S. It's in the Caribbean right now. The southeastern United States is going to be hit with this. The first wave of it is, you know, you're going to have like these beautiful sunsets from all the dust in the atmosphere, but when it comes, it's not going to be beautiful. It's going to be a nightmare. So that's happening. That's on the way. Then back to Breonna Taylor. The police officers that killed her have not been charged. They did get relieved of their duties as police officers, but they've not been charged. And that is criminal. What the fuck's going on? And then I saw this over the weekend. I meant to talk about it, and I forgot to talk about it, about the body cams that these police officers wear. And where's the accountability, like, to turn over the body cam so the footage can be reviewed? That there's some cases of these police brutality where they're erasing the body cams or crushing the body cam, destroying them so they can't be reviewed. The message that you send with that is that what you did wasn't right. And I don't think that reviewing the body cam footage should be optional. That should be a requirement. And I don't know what's going on with that, why the police would see a need to hide the body cam videos. But it's disturbing at best. So if you have time, watch the Chelsea Handler thing on Netflix about white privilege. I mean, white privilege is real. I know I'm white. I've never once been pulled over by the cops where I thought I'm potentially going to fucking die right now. I mean, and, but conversely, I've never gotten out of a ticket either, which I know a lot of white people do with their tears and their stories. I just suck it up and take it. But black people, when they get pulled over, there's potential that they will die. It's just real because every time they get pulled over and they, put their hands up so they can be seen, because that's something they do. I don't do that. When I get pulled over, I don't put my hands on the steering wheel. I would never even think to do that. But they do that, and then the cops come up and they say, whatever they say, do you know why I pulled you over? And mostly you say no, because you're not going to admit to whatever it is they think you did. And then if they say license and registration, a black person actually has to ask, okay, my license and registration are in my glove box or they're here on the seat. Can I reach for it? You got to ask permission. As a white person, you don't even think about that. License, registration, you go right to it. Why aren't they afraid of me? I can have a gun in my glove box. Speaking of, let me tell you a story about something like that. So I was pregnant with Grace, and I was driving out to the coast because we were living out there because we had sold our house. We didn't have a place to live yet. And I got pulled over for speeding. And I got pulled over on the side of Highway 101. It's, narrow on the way out to the coast. There's no real place that's safe to pull over. But I did pull over, and the cop came up and he's like, do you know why I stopped you? And I was like, no. And he's like, you were speeding. And I was like, okay. And he's like, can I see your license and registration? Well, I reached over and opened my glove box, and a freaking empty Coors Light can fell out of my glove box. And the cop was like, I'm going to need you to put your sunglasses down so I can see your eyes. So I went like this. He's like, I need you to step out of the car. And I go, I'm not getting out of the car. And he's like, what? I go, I'm not getting out of the car on this road. There's no room for me to get out of the car. I'm pregnant. I'm not getting out. He's like, I need to do field sobriety. I go, it's not mine. It's empty. It's not mine. I said, I don't even know. I mean, it's probably, my husband probably put it in there. Which he did. He was, excuse me, washing my car. And I guess he put it in there when he was done instead of putting it in the trash. I don't know really the situation around it. I don't drink Coors Light. I would never drink beer out of a can. I'm white. That's a joke. My husband's white too. But you know what I mean? Like, I would never drink beer. That's not who I am. He's like, I need you to get out of the car. I go, please understand, I'm not getting out of the car. It's not safe for me to get out of the car. I'm not going to stand on the side of the highway. I'm pregnant. Write me a ticket. I'll take the ticket. So he kind of like laughed at me and wrote me a ticket, and I drove away with my ticket, with my Coors Light can on the floor, empty, crushed up. And do you think it would have gone down like that if I was black? Hell no. I'd either be in jail right now or dead. So what has happened in our world? That we don't believe that this is real. It's fucking real. White privilege is real. And I benefit from it. So my benefit oppresses someone else, and I'm not happy about that. Now, I can't change my skin color, but neither can black people. So admitting that it's a problem gets us closer to making changes that make it less of a problem. And I'm on board with that. Changes need to be made. What else? I don't know if, I hope everyone read the Kevin Love thing about mental health yesterday. Because that's, in the forefront for me and for everyone that I love. We have to have some mental health awareness and real options for treatment. I talked about my daughter a little bit yesterday. She's 19 and, she still suffers. Maybe not daily like it used to be, but it's still a condition that requires treatment, both therapy and medication. And many times those two prongs can work together to get you in a stable place where you can live a very fulfilling life. And that's what we hope for. You know, every cry for help needs to be answered, whether it's a actual cry or a behavior that looks like a cry or